for businessman Mr. Jimi Wanjigi, as this afternoon his lawyers have been successful in convincing the court to grant temporal relief, and this is in regard to some of the prayers that were made today, one of those being that the police have been barred, prohibited from arresting or even threatening to arrest Jimi Wanjigi. That is one of the orders and prayers that have been granted for Mr. Jimi Wanjigi this afternoon. The other is what is being described as an anticipatory bail worth 50,000 shillings. And so speaking to his lawyers to explain and understand what anticipatory bail is all about, they're in essence saying it is money being put down as a sign of good faith that going forward, Mr. Jimi Wanjigi will be cooperating with the lawyers, with the police as and off when is necessary. So that is the other prayer that has been granted today. The other is that the police have been asked not to destroy any of his property. So what's interesting with that order is that we know destruction of property had been ongoing as that matter was being canvassed in court. So as to how that situation will be handled going on forward, we'll have to wait and see. But also another update we have for you this afternoon, Abby, is that the police and the agencies that have been inside Jimi Wanjigi's home this morning since they broke into the house, have been there for about 5 hours or so, they have seized some firearms. However, we are being told by family that these firearms are licensed, the ones that they have been able to seize this afternoon. That order that they had come with a search warrant was to look for firearms and ammunition. However, we are understanding that what they've been able to seize today is licensed. So perhaps if in fact that does play out as the same, it will then prove a legal challenge because then they have them legally. So those are the latest developments. So we expect to see or are waiting to see how that will play out because we understand the lawyers, after they gotten those orders from the court and paid that bail, anticipatory bail of 50,000 shillings, then they will be making their way here. The same will be served to the various security agencies that have been working on this particular operation here at Jimi Wanjigi's home in Muthaiga. So does it mean the end of the operation? What does it mean? We understand in essence does, but let us wait for that moment. But James Orengo, Senior Counsel, should be making his way here. But good news, this must be for Mr. Wanjigi.
Well, indeed, Sophia, some sort of relief for Mr. Wanjigi. But perhaps how soon should you expect the police to evacuate the place? And have you been able to talk to any of the commanders on the ground?
Speaking to the commanders earlier, they said they're executing the court order that they'd been able to get. Now there's another order, and once that has been served, it is expected then the police should vacate the premises unless then there's any other development therein. But as for now, we will tell you that officers are still holed up in his house. They have been, they broke into the house earlier and been destroying parts of the house. We saw them with sledgehammers really just going into some of those walls, unclear at the time what it is they were looking for. But also remember, other than the operation here at his house, there was the one at Kwacha, which is one of his companies, the main offices in Westlands, as well as ABC Place, Caramel, again, another operation going on there. So there have been simultaneous operations, and the questions, of course, abound around the timing of this operation, and also that, you know, the officers came here yesterday before they had that order, because we had opportunity last night to speak to the chief officer, that is for the flying squad, who at the time actually confessed that they did not have an order, but they were working under one of those criminal procedure codes that allow for officers to arrest one when they believe there's what they call cognizable offense. But for now, the court has spoken, and the court has said the police cannot arrest him, the police cannot even threaten to want to arrest the man, Jimi Wanjigi.
And Sophia, just as we wrap up, perhaps paint for us a picture of the current state of deployment. How heavy is it on that side of town?
The deployment has been heavy from yesterday, 10 a.m. Throughout the day, and they were really just almost staking out or camping out here in his compound. Even as the media, we were in the compound yesterday. I remember in the evening, a heavy contingent of GSU as well were deployed, and we saw them caucusing. At some point, it appeared there was going to be an imminent break-in. However, that did not happen throughout the night. And then came this morning, and it was clear that they would break in when they kicked out the media, because minutes after they had done so, then we got reports that they in fact had broken in, and we saw them in actual fact going in with some of those machinery and equipment they were using to force their entry into Jimi Wanjigi's residence. Remember, again, one of the things they sought to do is get him. So far, clearly, they have not gotten him because they believed he was within the residence. He was holed up in there, but clearly, as it stands right now, unless things change, they have not been able to arrest the man. And anyway, even if they did get him now, the court orders bar them from doing the same. But the mood here, journalists camped out in our numbers outside the gate. Inside, the operations continue. We are waiting, hopefully, to hear from the officers, even regarding that seizure. We understand of what is actually licensed firearms that they've been able to do, and any other items they may have gotten. And also, it'll be interesting to see the damage that has been done to this property in light of these orders that they should not damage any property. What happens then? Who pays for that? So we'll wait to see, and also more interesting going forward, really, what was all this about and what's the end game? Abby.
Many thanks there, Sophia Wanuna, covering for us our big story as of this hour. And of course, we shall